Yet. Good. Kavach. Oh, this is my style. Melava Malka. Milchig. L'chaim, toy in the shul. What? No. What?
They don't say no timing.
But other things they do say I.
What? No, they don't say I. No, they don't say. Right?
What can I get the rabbi? Cream cheese. Linses.
So what grade are you in? You're in the 5th grade? By Rabbi Sternfield? Very nice. So where do you teach?
I teach at Boston College.
BC.
Yeah.
Years ago we had a professor who taught in Boston College. Professor Joseph Gartner. Remember him? On Summit Ave.
What do you teach?
I think economics, if I'm right. I'm not 100% sure.
Right now there's two from your professors, me and Matt Sienkiewicz. Matt Sienkiewicz teaches communication.
But you're talking about a story, he's gone already. He's talking about a story, he must have left Boston 35 years ago. A lot of people who lived on Summit Ave. O'Shea Lewenstein, Dr. Baruch Miniker, Art Golden. But in those days, I remember him saying he had to supplement his income because in those days professors got $25,000 and then the story.
We're not doing much better.
You're not doing much better? I don't know about that. The professor's supposed to be doing great.
College. If you teach in the business school, law school, maybe.
What do you teach?
I teach German Jewish studies.
Jewish studies? Do you ever go to the campus by Temple, what was his name? What's his not Michigansville.
Yeah, Michigan.
Michigansville. Is that campus you ever use?
Yeah, I mean DC bought it a couple years ago.
I know.
And now they're redoing it.
They're
well, I mean,
redoing
Newton took out of it.
They got
let them take
a killer of a deal. They got a killer of a deal. You want to know why?
Why?
Because there's hundreds of acres there that weren't allowed to be built for another certain amount of years, and I think there's only about 5 years left, and then they can do whatever they want with that piece of property. It's worth a ton of money. The Fruma community tried to buy it. CJP didn't want to let it.
That was
know
when
about that?
Mermelstein just became the guy at Torah Academy when that. He said if he was like 5 more years in, he would have done full push on it. But he was like too new.
Yeah, but if they would have, they fought against it, the CJP. They didn't want to let the Fruma community buy it. Because the Fruma community could have waited around, and they could have sold, made who knows, a killing on it.
Right.
They could have put
You
TA
remember that?
there or the Yaakov as is, because it's already set up with the Sunday school in it.
So, are you involved with CJP?
But it's not, it's a done deal. Boston College owns it.
Right.
Huh?
Turns it off once.
Yeah.
Askinua Seudasa Maybe Nisa Shleimos Seudasa Malka Kaddish Askinua Seudasa Malka Mashiach HaLevy Ayom Yaakov Yaakov Adar Simna Mazra Sholom Mein Askinua Seudasa Maybe Nisa Shleimos Seudasa Malka Kaddish Askinua Seudasa Malka Mashiach Eretz Yisroel HaLevy Ayom Yaakov Adar Simna Mazra Sholom Mein Askinua Seudasa Maybe Nisa Shleimos Seudasa Malka Kaddish Askinua Seudasa Malka Mashiach the Melchi Yisroel HaLevy Ayom Yaakov Adar Simna Mazra Sholom Mein Motzai'i Shabbos Kodesh Motzai'i Shabbos You can wash. Okay, that's it. Where you from? I see you all the time.
What's that?
I see you all the time.
I'm originally from New Hampshire, but
Where in New Hampshire? Burlington?
no, not that far north. Laconia. There's the big malls over there. That's where I'm from. I moved down to Boston 2.5 months ago, about.
2.5 months ago?
About 2.5 months.
Well, you were here before 2.5 months ago. No?
I might have visited a couple of times,
Ah.
but I moved 2.5.
So where in Boston do you live?
I'm across the street from Nicola.
Oh, right around the corner.
Right.
Oh, maybe you can tell me something. My father was born in Dorchester, and his brothers became bar mitzvah with Avdei Miller's brothers. Shai Miller? What did I say? It was like,
Rabbi Avigdor Miller's brother had a shul there?
yeah.
Rabbi Avigdor Miller was a rabbi in Chelsea. But you're talking about the late 40s.
No, this is early 60s. This is late 50s.
I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
I was a little boy.
Right.
The late 50s. I was born in Dorchester,
Yeah.
the early 50s, but we moved in 1961,
Moved here.
in the summer of 61. So I was 8-9 years old. The only shul I knew besides my father's shul, which was on Columbia Road, near Franklin Park, that they called it, was Rebbe Lokich, because he had a couple of boys. We used to call them in those days Berish and Louis. We used to play together, so I used to sometimes go to their shul to play with them.
Is that Reverend Lokich?
Reverend Lokich, yeah. Maya Lokic.
Went by Reverend.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he. I forget which. I think it was the Blue Hill Avenue. So,
Do you ever drive around there?
did I ever go back to visit? I visited. I visited my old home one year. About
We
2
did
years
about
ago.
what,
Gave it
2
to
years
her.
ago.
Just-
Well,
2 years
2
I gave it to her, but
the my Sukkah, so we went
different.
there.
A different. It looks differently.
Yeah, it looks different. Looks different.
Looks different. They took away the mikveh,
Yeah, he filled it in.
filled it in. I couldn't feel that. I couldn't find the matzah oven. And they said they're going to tear it down.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened at the end.
well, some sort of it was related something to some sort of police organization now. That's what who was there.
My father sold it to that Catholic organization. I forget what it's called.
Knights of Pythias?
Huh?
Knights of Pythias?
Pythias, yeah, something
It's
like
not a
that.
Catholic.
Whatever it is. It sounds Catholic to me.
I knew a guy who was a client,
Yeah.
and he was part.
Knights
part-
of Columbus, I think it was
no,
called.
not- well, unless they bought it later.
Yeah,
The Knights of Pythias, and they had that building,
yeah,
and before he became religious,
yeah.
he had no idea what that pool in the basement was for, and then he realized later in life that's what it was.
It was a very big mikveh. Much bigger than, it was at least 3 times the size of the one we have here.
In honor of the former Boston mikveh, we should make our mikveh even bigger than that.
Okay. Don't forget the sauna.
Yeah.
So,
We're talking about, you have these dreams, I might as well dream even bigger.
Rebbe, they say shoot for the stars, you might end up at the moon, right?
Yeah. Well, there's going to be this week is a lunar eclipse, you know? Friday morning. I'll meet you there, 2:46 a.m.
Rebbe's gonna be up.
I'll be up. I don't know about you.
I'll still be doing tikkun atzos or whatever it is.
Oh, that's right. That's Thursday night, so you do tikkun chatzos. 2:46 a.m. I don't know, but I don't know if
We
it,
can watch
I
it
don't
from
know
here,
if
we'll
it
take the stick
this
out.
year if it's going to be a full lunar eclipse,
I don't think so. Oh.
huh? It says on the
Look it
East
up.
Coast. Where the East Coast?
Yeah.
No, East Coast means New York.
No. Rebbe drove up to New Hampshire, Maine for the solar eclipse.
Yeah, I saw the solar eclipse in New Hampshire, near the Canadian border.
That was a full eclipse there.
I saw it together with
Doctor.
Joel Kidney and Dr. Hollander was there too. It's almost a year, you know?
Yeah.
Dr. Hollander, it's almost a year's time since we saw the solar eclipse. I think you remember the ride back from there even better.
Who drove?
I wasn't in his car. We didn't have the schus to be in his car.
Let's talk about the solar eclipse.
What's the solar eclipse? Yeah.
Well, that was a once in a lifetime
It was.
thing.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
This is shrine. That's
Shrine.
My family and I went up there. And
Huh?
My family and I, because we lived in like central New Hampshire, so it wasn't so far of a drive for us.
Oh,
No.
okay.
But we just
Well, if
picked-
I would have known, we would have spent the night by you.
we
Salmon
ended
and
up,
salmon.
we picked like a random baseball field. Just like put out some chairs.
We had a park. We had a park.
No, I had you.
We ran into a group of like 40 or 50 settlers that had
Oh
driven
yeah, I'm sure they were all
Go
up
wash.
there.
I had a schluck this afternoon. I had enough come back.
Does the Rebbe know that Gavin teaches Moshe Loser at Torah Academy?
I had no idea. Oh, you're his English teacher?
No, I teach the general studies.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Secular studies. Good luck to you.
4 weeks.
Huh?
How's his English?
No idea. He talks to me in Yiddish.
How's his Yiddish?
His Yiddish is pretty good.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you? Did they ever tell you? We went to visit my father once visited Rabbi Soloveitchik on Pesach.
Sorry, next time I'll put on the other.
And the schmoozing.
We like each other.
And
I guess it was a one-way feeling.
my father asked him, were you ever by Revel in Brisk?
Oh no, I think it's plastic. You put the chemical in the sweet.
On Pesach. Said, yeah. Revel. His uncle. Did visit your uncle ever? Said, yeah, we visited him. In Brisk.
That's how you feel a lot, you know?
What did you see there?
It splints. Is your
So he said, Moirish Chayra in his entirety. Because he was so worried that maybe the matzahs are chometz and this is chometz, that it was all Moirish Chayradik.
No, take another.
I can't.
And they
I
all.
had to tell my father this. They shook
And a
him
lot
all
of
that
people
street.
came out of
Huh?
Tell my father they shook him all that street. So now, since Baruch Hashem, I didn't know about any of this growing up. So I couldn't enjoy the mitzvah.
John, for serious, please give me
They decided they were going to do it like every day.
Adeo yoyve noira batzale lechama vekra Noi lina noira gida Doge mech lidei adoi noi Oy hey na tosik masik Velei shuas vakeven sik
Yadono Yeshua say, oh Yeshua say, Zahor kapayim, oy kapayim, Adonai kapayim, kapanim. Lord lecha, yehi ameleken lecha, Adonai asel lecha, asel lecha, kol nebez kol lecha, harbez lecha, Adonai bor panecha, bor panecha. Adonai Yish Milchama, Yish Milchama. Shokim Adonai, Tomei Adonai, Adonai Malkeinu, Yoshini.
Yitin l'chos, Yishtachol. Birchas Shemayim all birchas tohim revetzes tochas. Shigar lefecha, l'ashter eseinecha. Amalach hagoy aloysim mikol royi. Baruch atah b'ir, baruch atah b'sodim. Lo visa goyim rabim ba'ata loy silve. Mochisi cha'opi she'echo v'cha'onon chatoy secho. Yisrael noishe b'adonai tshuva say lomim. Sosim v'simcha yasigu v'nosi yagama nochki v'simcha seitzeyu. Heute lade noi kirish moyim. He goes. Salve v'roini yeshev v'siyah ki godel b'kir b'ech kedosh. Beis Yaakov l'chu v'neilcho. Hayonis in yomis. Afachte misbedil l'mochli petachti zake. Bore nifsu fasoim shalom shalom. Adoino yois la amiyite na Chomokoi moyos. Chsiv basrei oise mishpet yosem v'almono. The Ksiv Shila Lihim Zamu Shmoy Soilu Rochei. Yehi Adino Yeleni Yemoni Kashahoyim Abiseinu Al Yazveinu Al Yitsheni. Shia Malo Yisashu. Ish Chosid He he's gonna be They bring in the next thing, the ice cream. Ice cream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. That's how it goes, no? Yeah. That's the nusach.
We were talking about kimosabi and Shabbos.
Yeah, that's right. See.
It's kimosabi.
Oh, it's what Squanto called the one major.
Oh, the Indian guy?
Yeah.
Whose name was kimosabi?
No, that's what he called the white guy.
Yeah.
They're still associating.
With Yamalek.
Yeah, with the person.
It's sad to stay in the light
So Rashi
of
says,
Lone Angel.
even
Everybody, the biggest Gedolei Torah used to say on Hitler Yamach Shemoy.
That's your
but
imagination.
how does it show with the Rashi that
You
even
know
the
the time the Lone Ranger
shouldn't be
and Tonto
associated
were on the top of the
with
mountain.
Amalek?
You're not
My
Squanto.
Mechut only
Did you say
says
Squanto?
What?
He says when Yamach Shemo and they
And they found themselves surrounded
Yeah,
by
'cause he
Indians
doesn't
and
say
all
Hitler.
that.
What's the name?
because
The Lone Ranger turns to
this
Tonto and
what does
says,
Simcha
"That's
Zecher
it for us.
Amalek
He
mean?
just
Yeah.
went,
You
"That's
shouldn't
like
nothing should be associated.
Uh-huh.
So he just says, you know, when Yamach Shemo did this, when Yamach Shemo did that.
Right here.
It really depends on what Simcha Zecher Amalek is.
Anything good political happened over
Right here.
Shabbos?
Because on Lo Tishkach, you have to back it down. You
The
have to
Rebbe.
tell your kids.
The Rebbe?
You have to tell your kids. Otherwise you forget it.
So if you don't say who did it, then how do they know who did it?
Rashi comes along and says nothing
The
should
paradox. That's
Yeah.
perpetuating the memory about
Rashi, exactly. Rashi says nothing should ever be associated, even an animal shouldn't. The dog.
But until it happens, you have to mention it. You know, yeah, because in Kisa Shalom,
When the Lubavitch school was forced to sell for a ceremonial $1. And
That
then-
was in the 60s.
That was the Panama Canal.
No.
No.
No, Lubavitch school
Right,
ended up getting
right.
sold for $0.0, and
No,
then
it belonged. It was
supposed to give
it was
$1.
a ceremonial $1, but they never gave it.
right.
He bummed it off one of the.
One of the CJP members.
Right.
He was there. He went to school there.
Why did that happen?
Why did that happen? Because of Elma Lewis. You don't know who Elma Lewis is?
I
probably.
don't.
I don't get one.
Elma Lewis was the who bought the school. The truth is, they took it away from her afterwards.
Yeah.
Then why didn't they give it back to the Lubavitch?
No, Lubavitch didn't want to stay there because it was.
No, but they could have flipped it or whatever.
No. Nobody wanted to buy it because Elma Lewis wanted to buy it. She was an anti-Semite. She was a
Politician?
She wasn't a politician. She was. She considered herself a civil rights leader. That's what she considered herself.
The old Nihal sold for $1.
I know. You don't have to tell me. I know the whole history. I lived through it.
1960.
But what brings this up? What brings this up?
We were talking about Dorchester. I just had a question.
Dorchester. Oh.
Were we thinking we could move back?
It's a beautiful. You should know that the ones who took it over,
Eventually.
the ones who took it over,
The property was valuable. It was huge property.
It's a beautiful property.
It sold for $1.
I had her.
It took the community 40 years to get it together.
Chairs over here.
Can someone find where is it?
Move up. More. Okay, we're gonna say the Chassidshe Mayseh now.
Before we say this, Chassidshe Mayseh.
What's the problem?
With Jimmy's.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll serve the rabbi in 1 second.
What's the?
Rabbi Kilman.
Okay.
I can get some.
Yeah, I got. Let me just turn on my voice. I'll just record the Chassidshe Mayseh. A lot of pressure on me.
Here, just
There's
hit
a lot of
record
people.
on this.
A lot of people expect things.
Every week at Melava Malka we say over Chassidshe Mayseh. Usually it's done in conjunction for when that person's yahrzeit is. Tonight I'm going to say over about the first Pittsburgher Rebbe, whose yahrzeit is on Shushan Purim, which will be next Shabbos. And I'll explain the relationship that I have for the Pittsburgher Rebbe, because at the end of the day, I still even remember the day of his passing, which was Shushan Purim, Tafshin Chavav, 1966. My mother came to the States from Poland as a young girl because her mother remarried. Her mother was divorced from my grandfather, who I'm named after. And she came from Poland, and her stepfather, who she really admired because he was very kind to her, even though he was a stepfather.
I got it. We got it.
It was the Clevelander Rebbe. So you have the Pittsburgher Rebbe and the Clevelander Rebbe. The Clevelander Rebbe was a brother to the Pittsburgher Rebbe. So it was my mother's step uncle, but she considered him like an uncle. In fact, my mother was born in Poland. I can still recall it. We once went to on a trip to where is the falls, Niagara Falls. We went to Niagara Falls for the wedding. Some people might still remember his name, for Matisyo Goldblum in the summer of 1984. And after the wedding, I went with my wife was there, and my mother and father, the Rebbe and Rebbetzen, and we went to look at Niagara Falls. And don't forget, this was in the middle of the night. So you can imagine how much you can see of Niagara Falls in the middle of the night. And we were on the United States side, and the person says, oh, you can't really see too much here. Let's go over to the Canadian side. You're talking about 1984, pre-2001. And we went on the other side. They asked us when we went into Canada, are you American citizens? Yes. And we went across, and we saw the Canadian side of the Niagara Falls, which wasn't too much more than the United States side, because after all, it was at night. And we, of course, came back after a while. And by the United States border, the United States CBP asks us, okay, what are you? So we said, we're all United States citizens. So my mother was born in Galicia, so they asked my father first, and where were you born? Boston, Massachusetts. Okay. Then he asked me, and where were you born? Boston, Massachusetts. And they asked my wife, and where were you born? And my wife says, New York City. It's true. Then they asked my mother, who was born in Poland. My mother was put on the spot. She says, Cleveland, Ohio. Because she was brought up in Cleveland, Ohio. She didn't want to start giving explanations here. Those days you could do it. You did it without a passport, and there was no big fuss about it. So this Pittsburgher Rebbe was a big tzaddik. Both he and my mother's stepfather were sons of Rebbe. Rebbe was a son of the Nidvaner, the famous Nidvaner, who all these Nidvaner Rebbes descend from, and he lived in Satmar, in fact. And truth be told, there was a rivalry between the Satmar Rebbe and this Rebbe. In fact, when they came over, the Satmar Rebbe and this Pittsburgh Rebbe didn't have too much contact because of past grievances, call it. And in fact, one time the Satmar Rebbe felt that he wanted to know the Pittsburgh Rebbe because he knew he was a tzaddik, and he told this Gabbai Yosel Ashkenazi, you know what? Call up the Pittsburgh Rebbe. I want to wish him a good year, a new year. And Yosel Ashkenazi, who was the Gabbai, the shamus of the Satmar Rebbe, calls up and says to the Pittsburgh Rebbe, he says, yes. He says, I'm the Gabbai, Yosel Ashkenazi, and the Satmar Rebbe wants to speak to you. So he told him, I don't have any business with the Satmar Rebbe, and there's no reason for me to get on the phone with him. And so the Satmar Rebbe says to Yosel Ashkenazi, tell him I'm getting on the phone. So he says, the Satmar Rebbe is getting on the phone to speak to you. He says, then for sure I won't be able to, I'm not speaking. That's the type of relationship. But my mother used to say to me, he worshipped his father. How far did his worshiping go for his father? He worshipped his father that my mother said he had a hat from his father, Rebbe. And when he used to order a hat, he used to go, and I don't know if anybody knows here, there was called Selco Hatters. Remember that one? Selco Hatters. It was on Broadway in Williamsburg. Yeah. And he went to him, and he used to take along his father's hat and say, I want exact specs of this hat that my father wore. So I heard this I heard it from others as well, but I heard this story from the Pittsburgher Rebbe, who was a dear friend of mine. He passed away a couple of years ago in Ashdod, because his father was a son of this Pittsburgher Rebbe, and his father moved to Ashdod, and and he built his place in Ashdod, and his son was a boyhood friend of mine. We learned in Lakewood together, and he told me that his grandfather sent his boys off to yeshiva in Hungary because there was no place in Pittsburgh to send teenage boys, so he sent them off to learn in Hungary. And there were 3 boys. Somehow his father survived it. His father survived. He was able to get back to the States when World War II broke out. But his 2 older brothers stayed in Europe, and they were killed by Yamach Shemoy. They were killed. And this person came in, and the Rebbetzen, the mother of these 2 boys that were killed, started saying how terrible it is that she sent these 2 boys to Europe to learn yeshiva because he felt that there wasn't a place for them under the proper auspices here in the United States, and they were killed for no good reason. And then the Rebbetzen walked out. So the Pittsburgher Rebbe turned to this fellow and said, my Rebbetzen have terrible Agnes Nefesh from it. We lost our 2 boys. But you want to know the truth? If I had to do it all over again, I would do it exactly the way I did it. Because I'd rather have it this way, that they should have known what it means to be a Jew, and that's where they learned it. This I heard from my friend, the Pittsburgher Rebbe, Rebbe Motzai'i, who we used to call him all the time. And today, Pittsburgh continues. There was in Squirrel Hill in Pittsburgh. His father was before he became the Pittsburgher Rebbe, when he took over his father's place, he was called the Newarker Rebbe, because he lived in Newark, New Jersey. You can imagine what Newark, New Jersey was in those days. And then they moved to Ashdod, and they have there a following. He passed away tragically during COVID. He wasn't a healthy person. He's younger than me. He wasn't a healthy person, Motzai'i. He had high blood pressure, and he had a severe diabetic. But it continues. But this was the Mesiris Nefesh that the Pittsburgher Rebbe had, that his sons should grow up in the proper environment. Skusi Yogan Aleinu Val Kol Yisrael.
What's his name, Leifert?
Leifer.
Leifer, right?
Right, Leifer.
Yeah. But his father was also a Pittsburgher Rebbe, wasn't he?
Whose father?
Leifer.
Well, this was the first one. I'm talking about the first one that passed away in 1966.
Yeah, but there was a Pittsburgher Rebbe way back in the 50s there.
That was this one. He passed away in
My
1966.
grandfather was a Chassidshe Mayseh.
Okay, so that's it.
Pittsburgh.
This is the one. His name was
Squirrel.
Joseph Leifer.
Yeah, right.
Joseph
Squirrel,
Leifer.
right. But then he moved to Yerushalayim.
No, he did not move to
There was a
Yerushalayim.
Pittsburgher Rebbe in Yerushalayim.
No,
Somebody
there was
called
never a
him.
Pittsburgher Rebbe Shleim. There was a Pittsburgher Rebbe in Ashdod.
But there was a place
His
in Yerushalayim
son.
called Pittsburgher Rebbe, next to the the Israeli Museum.
Could be, I don't know. I'm not familiar with it.
Is Rebbe related to Pittsburgh?
I said to my mother.
Ah.
But I'll give you an interesting story about this.
Another connection to Pittsburgh through your daughter-in-law also.
My daughter-in-law, that's right. My daughter-in-law, Milo's husband, his wife, yeah,
Granddaughter.
is not a granddaughter. She's a great-granddaughter of, but she's a great-great-granddaughter of this Pittsburgher Rebbe from 1966.
Wow. Great.
Rebbe Rebbetzen is also.
Right. She's a
That's
great.
why. That's how
Right.
he'll get to you.
Yeah, same
yeah.
line.
Same line. Yeah.
You're talking about.
Which like the oldest was the oldest.
You have all
Spiegel.
these Rebbes. You have the Pittsburgher Rebbe, and you have the Clevelander Rebbe, and you have the Bostoner Rebbe. I'll tell you a good story that I had at a wedding. I was sitting next to my cousin who calls himself the Clevelander Rebbe. And I don't know all these Rebbes that come in. And all of a sudden, somebody walks in, and I ask, who's this Rebbe? And he tells me, this Rebbe is the Shinova Rebbe. He says, oh, I said, Shinova Rebbe, very nice. Big Rebbe, Shinova. Everybody heard of Shimon. He was the son of the Sansa. The next one walks in, and I ask, who's this Rebbe? And he tells me, this is the Rimonova Rebbe. So, Rimonova Rebbe, Shinova, and Rimonova. It's wonderful. Then the third one walks in, and I ask, and who's this Rebbe? I didn't know them. He says, this is the Rupshitzer Rebbe. I go, I got out of my chair. I said, wow, this is wonderful. So he said, you have so many big Rebbes here. So he says, what do you think? Everybody's foolish like us to call ourselves Boston and Cleveland?
Is Boston the first American Hasidus?
Probably, but there were Rebbes that came here before Boston.
Yeah.
They weren't. My father was born in Boston. That's the difference. But there were Rebbes who came here. But you know, you go to this fellow Rabbi Landau from Monroe, and he goes to all these kvarim way before they came here.
My Shver's the cemetery in Rochester. My Shver's whole family. Hundreds of people's family.
Yeah.
There's a Hasidim.
There's a big Rebbe. There's like the first one's in. The first one they said is in Buffalo.
Everybody comes by bus to go to his camp.
On the internet.
I'll tell you this. He got an itch. This Landau, because when there was after the Cold War was over, the Chassidim started going to Europe. But to go to Europe, to all these places, to the Sansa or to Lezhensk, cost thousands of dollars. Not everybody could afford it. So here you have all these people that have the money. They go, and we went to the Mekaymis HaKadoshim. These people didn't know what to say. They also want to go to Mekaymis HaKadoshim. So Rav Landau figured out that there's in Buffalo a tzaddik, and there's here in Chelsea also a tzaddik, and he offered them, you want to come? $25, and you get on the bus, you come back the following night, so they could also come and say, we also went to Mekaymis HaKadoshim, and he had an itch. He used to bring them, for years they came like Ba'ima time. Zvil where? Here, Korf, Rabbi Korf, yeah.
Korf's in Chelsea, I think, right?
No,
What
that's
is
right. Everett.
Everett?
Everett, yeah.
They say there's the Boston, the Clevelander, the Pittsburgher, and the Michiganer. Right? Isn't that what they say?
The Detroiter?
Yeah, but there was a fellow, you talk about Michigan Rebbe, there was a fellow who used to do Purim. He called himself, what was the name? What's her name? From Newton, he passed away.
I met the Parrot Rebbe.
You know, she's a Turm. She's a Turm. Her father's name was Turm, her maiden name. He passed away. She lives in Newton. You know, Zeb Lechner's cousin. Mark Lechner's cousin.
Dude, I'm eating this garlic dip single-handedly. No, it's not who I'm mistaken.
With the tomatoes.
The Almana. The husband was a big entrepreneur. He used to go around speaking. Hammer, Mrs. Hammer, Michael Hammer. So Michael Hammer used to get every Purim dress up as a Rebbe, and he called himself the Michiganer Rebbe.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
He's Mark's.
Mrs. Rosenblum?
What?
Mark's cousin.
He's Mark's cousin.
Mark Manning.
Right now?
Mark Manning's cousin.
Because they're both growing cheese, no?
Mark and Zeb's mother, Mrs. Toby Blechner, was a Turm. Her father is a Turm. So Mrs. the Blechner's mother, Toby Blechner, and her father were brother and sisters. That's how they're related. World Cheese Company. World Cheese Companies was owned by her father. Her father, right. And who owns World Cheese Company now? You know?
Bob Kraft?
No. Shimshi Sheriff, Rabbi Moshe Sheriff's son, owns today World Cheese Company because he married the one who took it over, daughter, and she was a Bas Yechida. My good old friend Shimshi.
No, be Torah 23. Tanyana You gotta schlep the.
But all the blessings are related to her because they're terms.
Everybody all three of them.
Michael Osman was real tragic. Also, they're all tragic. But he was in cancer research. Huh? He was the one that started out. It didn't go to make this type of. He was his idea. He's Rabbi Osman's cousin.
Here's a cue.
But they spell it differently. One spells it OSBND, the other one spells it AUB.
Page 36 in the Hebrew.
Amadoy noy the Yaakov.
Adir Avdi Yaakov.
Amadoy noy the Yaakov.
Adir Avdi Yaakov.
Amadoy noy yes Yaakov.
Adir Avdi Yaakov. Adir Avdi Yaakov. Avay Yishuyas Yaakov. Adir Yaakov. Yaakov. Adir Avdi Yaakov. Zachor Zos Yaakov. Adir Yaakov. Betas Yeshua Yaakov. Adir Avdi Yaakov. Yaakov. Adir Avdi Yaakov. Yaakov. Adir Avdi Yaakov. Kilo Kashi Yaakov. Adir Avdi Yaakov. Yaakov. Adir Avdi Yaakov. Imana for Yaakov. Adir Avdi Yaakov. Yaakov. Adir Avdi Yaakov. Slatala Yaakov. Adir Avdi Yaakov. Adar Yeshua Yaakov. Adir Avdi Yaakov. Salve Yeshias Yaakov, Adir Avdi Yaakov, Kol Yaakov, Adir Avdi Yaakov, Adir Avdi Yaakov, Yaakov, Adir Yaakov, Titeremos Yaakov, Adir Avdi Yaakov, Salve Yeshias Yaakov.
Give Dr. Holm the coast. He'll bench. Dum da dum ba dum da dum ba bum bum ba da dum ba dum ba dum da dum ba shira malo shira malo shira malo shira malo shira
ba-dum-bum-bum.